Welcome back to the show. Today, we have Beate Chelette on the show. She is the growth architect and founder of the Women's Code, which provides visionaries and leaders strategies that grow their authority so that they can scale their impact. A really cool fact that we're going to get into is that Beate bootstrapped her passion for photography into a global business and eventually sold it to Bill Gates in a multi-million-dollar deal. Not only that, she was $135,000 in debt as a single mom and turned it around and sold it during a massive recession. So I'm really excited to learn from her. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Kiri. I was looking forward to this. Let's dive right in.
Great. And for our audience, if you have not checked out our money mapper yet, the link is at the bottom of the show notes. The plug and play worksheet will help you discover financial independence as a business owner. So, Beate, let's just jump right in. Tell us about your business. You have the Growth Architect, and it's a consultancy from how I'm understanding it. You've got a mastermind, you've got fractional CEOs, COO services. You also have a podcast as part of this. Tell us a little bit more about the Growth Architect and how you help your clients.
Yes. So as a growth architect, in the simplest of all versions, architect growth for businesses. We work with a lot of visionaries, thought leaders, people that have big ideas and don't know how to land planes. So we help them to grow their authority and scale their impact. And to make it even more simple, there's three ways that we work with our clients. In the entire transformational journey of a business owner, there are really three markers on the road that are really, really super relevant. Number one is, how do you turn that talent into a business? What's your business model? What's your unique value proposition? How you show up?
Mm.
That's turn your talent into a business. That's one program that we do. The second piece is once you know sort of who you are and what you're doing, and you start growing, you realize that there's a system, an overall system that's needed. The dreaded get rich in the niche, but you do too many things. You have too much knowledge. Everybody tells you to pale it down. You don't want to pale it down. You want to
Mm.
scale it up. So we help you build the umbrella over it and create the signature growth system with the different entry points and help flush out which products are for each one of these points. And finally, the third piece is when you've figured out what the talent is, and that is a business, when you have the system and people know who you are and what you're doing, it's time to really scale the business, which is an entirely different endeavor because then you have to have an optimal alignment growth plan. How do you take this? How do you scale it? How do you make yourself obsolete and build this in such a way that it can scale itself simply? So these are the three main things that we come in, and it's all under the umbrella of how do you architect your growth?
Mm. So for the first stage where you turning your talent into a business, so then you don't there's no minimum to work with you, right? They don't have to have any kind of minimum revenue in order to work with you. They can just say, I really want to have a balloon business. I'm looking at your balloon in the background. I really want to have a balloon business. I don't know how to go to there because I'm a teacher. I don't know what to do. And you could take that and help them turn that into a business.
Yeah, so there's three things that typically happen. So either you let's go by the example of the balloon or the pie, right? So you can make this a hobby and you can bring to every party that you go your little balloon arrangements just because you're very good at it and you love it and people are so grateful that you come, and then one day you say, you know what, I should charge for that. And then you start turning that hobby into a side hustle. And then people say, can you create this balloon thing for my parents' 50th anniversary? And now you make a little bit money on the side. And then finally, there's the point where you go, I think that I could probably scale this to a part where I can replace my income in my regular
Mm.
job. And now I'm turning my side hustle into a full-time gig. So in the turn your talent into a business, interesting how you picked up on that, Kiri, because we literally just had brought this program that I had done a while ago, and we had over 22,000 people that have gone through this program, and it's been a very, very successful program. But at one point, I thought, I really want to deal with the higher end stuff. And then probably about mid last year, I got a very clear download, and it was like, you need to help people to turn their talent into a business. That is where you need to be at. So we went back, we updated the entire program, and we are actually, as a matter of fact, launching a free training in our Facebook group right now, which is, turn your talent into a business under the growth architect umbrella, for that very reason, that I feel a lot of people now, with what's happened in the market, that have been, told that, as COVID came, they were laid off. Then the company said, "Oh, we're just kidding. Now we pay you any amount of money. You're basically, Jesus walking on water." And then the minute, COVID kind of came to an end, they said, "Oh, just kidding. Now we can get rid of everybody that we overpaid." And now, and then they say, "Well, we made a mistake. We rehire you, but for a lot less." And now everybody's getting laid off again. So I think there's been such a whiplash in the market and the economy, that people at much larger numbers than we've seen in years are coming and said, "I've had it with this.
Mm. It's just
I've had
tired.
it. It's just
Yeah.
tiring. We're burned out. I want to be my own boss. I don't want to be at the mercy of just some, you know, 35-year-old schmuck,
Mm.
who's eating this hook, line, and sinker. I want to go out. I really want to make this work." And so that's why we made this a program. And we have a lot of high ticket things, but we made this a very affordable program, just because I feel that, if I can take people in 12 weeks to actually build a business, then that's probably a pretty good service. So that's how we engineered it. It's 6 weeks of content on what do you need to do, and how, and sort of all the pieces that need to be
Mm.
fleshed out, what it is, who it serves, who the ideal client is. And then we dive right into building it for the next 6 weeks. And so in 3 months, people can actually walk away with a real business.
Mm. Have they been able to replace their former salary, or is it more just like the building blocks to really know what to do in order to replace their full-time salary?
It really depends on how committed you are. And that's where a lot of the
Mm.
things, you also talk about mindset, action, skills come in. When, in mindset, we always say that everything starts with making an actual decision. So if you listen to this podcast and you say, "Well, it would be nice if my balloon business would make me some extra money," that's not a decision, that's a wish. But
Mm.
if you say, "I am taking this balloon business because I'm a freaking genius with this and everybody loves it, and I'm going to figure out how to run a business," that's a decision. So there are a lot of factors that need to go into it. But this particular program is really in the way designed to not be judgmental about this, because some people just don't know on whether or not they are serious about it, and they want to know what it takes before they make the decision. So that's why we figured, if we put something out there to help people to either make the decision and go for it, or figure out if they are willing to make the decision, then we're doing a good service.
Mm. I like that. I have with my coaching, I coach some people who are completely leaving their corporate role and going into a freelance service based, even sometimes a consultancy. And it really makes a difference on how committed they are. Because there are a lot of people who say they're committed. And totally, I've experienced this too. Like life gets in the way, I get really busy, and then sometimes I'm just can't keep up with the work that's assigned to me or whatever. And I get that. But then there's some people who they are super committed, and you see they take what they've learned from me and my program and they apply it, and then they're like, "My mind's blown, this is great, I can see myself going so far." And then there are people who are like, "Yeah, yeah, I like it," or they don't show up, or it's different. So I understand the mindset has to be there. It has to be saying like,
Listen,
this is not just something I like the idea of, it's something I'm going to do. And I find that that is the difference with my coaching with someone who says, "I really want to be this X website designer or whatever." I read this thing online saying I could create my own schedule. I'd really like to do that. And I say to them, "Well, is it just a like? Do you want, or do you really, really want to do it? Because if you really want to do it, then I need to have understand that this is gonna be your commitment, right? And you're gonna have to
and
put in the
and that
time and
and
effort."
yeah, and that's it. And then you get to the next decision, and that's time or money,
Mm.
or time and money, because there is a lot of information out there. There's no question in my mind that if you are diligent, you can learn this pretty much for free on your own. But it's going to be a lot of time you need to put in, because you have to
Mm.
look through what information is valid. You have to look at a bunch of different things. You don't know if what these people are telling you is the truth. And in internet marketing, what we have seen over the last couple of years is that the internet marketers have trained their own competition. And then some literally Best Buy sales clerk that invested the couple $1,000s in the program is now a business consultant.
Mm.
And you go with them because you feel that they're affordable, more affordable than somebody else. But when you go on their LinkedIn and you actually look at their resume or their history, they literally were a Best Buy sales clerk just a month ago. And now they're a business consultant, helping you to scale to seven figures and beyond. So you
No,
I
I
have to
know.
say,
I know. I know. I was doing a marketing audit with this new person on my team recently, and she's like, "Who is your competition?" I was, pointing out some people, and I said, "But they only had a freelance business for like 2 years. I don't understand. I had mine for like 10 years before I started coaching people. I went through recessions. I've been able to bounce back from COVID. How can these people teach after?" And she was like, that's not my issue. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. It's really incredible. Um,
yeah. So to finish up that thought, so then that's the next question is how fast do you want to get there? And I will say that somebody he who was a sales clerk at Best Buy turned business consultant probably never built a business, never sold a business, never went through the trials and tribulation to build a business. They want you to pay them to figure out how to build their business. So you got to be also very clear about who you bring on board. And there's so much information out there that a lot of times people get derailed for years and years and years and years. And then they get very frustrated because they can't figure out who the right person is to help them. So the diligence, and I commend all your listeners to being on this podcast. This is really how you start by figuring out what resonates with me, what sounds true. Does this person have answers that sound like they are real and relevant? And are those shared experiences out of their own experiences, or are they telling fictional stories that happened to other people that they picked up in their training?
mm, all good points. So I do want to then take this moment to kind of backtrack in your history because you've done so much with business. And as I mentioned, we've got the fact that you were a single parent, you were $135,000 in debt, and yet you managed to build a business, photography, passion, and sell it. So walk us through that journey a little bit, please.
Yeah, so basically my story is the story of many people, of somebody who had a very difficult and fairly abusive upbringing in Germany, by the hands of my mother, and then had to get out as soon as possible. Started to go into the creative arts as a photographer, then became a photo editor at Elle magazine, and immigrated to the United States, was a photographer representative, a producer for still photography, worked with great clients, Mercedes-Benz, Wrangler, um, a lot of big catalogs out of Europe. And I had gotten to about $1 million business. And then my employee got too close with my key vendor, set up their business, which was my business without me, sued them, was in a gnarly lawsuit for about a year, and thought I was going to recover. But then September 11th came and wiped out my production business in 24 hours. I lost a $500,000 in literally 24 hours. And I'm sitting there and I have nothing left. And I had to figure out how to rebuild my business and couldn't do it. So I came up with the stock photography syndication, built that. That was like running up in 3-inch stilettos in a spiral staircase as fast as you can because I didn't have any money, and I had to borrow money for literally every step of the way. And and then eventually I ended up being $135,000 in debt, was a single mom at the time. And I was like, this is game over. I have to, and you'll appreciate that, Kiri. I had to borrow money to pay interest on borrowed money. I think that's also called the death spiral in business. Did all of that, do you need an extra $5,000? Sure. 24%? No problem. Um, I needed any amount of money just to keep me afloat. And then I went to Germany to go to a conference. My father had a stroke in Germany. My father had not had a stroke. My father had pancreatic cancer. Passed away 6 weeks later. I'm at the funeral, pick up my phone. My office in Los Angeles called me, says, we've been served a notice. And now I'm also losing my house. So in this moment, we talk a lot about defining moments, and this sort of the point of the story is there was so much bad stuff that happened in my life that at this point I was so burned out and so wiped out and so exhausted because all my worst case scenarios already have happened. Like what else could possibly happen? And I just fell on my knees and I surrendered and I said, whatever happens, happens now. But if you have a plan, this would be an excellent time to film me. And I just couldn't fathom that the end of all of this, the joke would be on me, like God, universe, spirit, or what you call it, then goes like, nay, 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 nay,
Yeah.
you're a loser all along, right? I mean, that just, I couldn't hear it. That just was a thought that I couldn't fathom. And I got back, I got a letter from the White House a couple months later. And I got a letter from the White House because in my absolute desperation and because of a nagging former mother-in-law, just to point out sometimes how spirit, God, or the universe, whatever you want to call it, works in mysterious ways. So she would constantly go like, did you write a letter to the president? Is your president? Why do you not go to the number one person in the country? If anybody can help you, it's the president of the United States. And at some point, Kiri, I'm like, okay, I just cannot have this conversation with you anymore. I'm just going to write the damn letter. So just so we don't have to talk about it anymore. Then imagine my surprise when I get the letter from the White House. I'm like, okay, well, interesting. And it put me in touch with the Small Business Administration, but with a second in command, because he also got a letter from the White House and he wanted to see who the nutcase was who wrote a letter to the president to get in touch with him instead of calling him directly, which hadn't even occurred to me. And so when I walked in, I'm going to put in what you put in. And 3 months later, they found me a bank that took my debt, restructured in a 10-year fixed loan, and freed up my line of credit. 3 months later, I'm break even. 18 months later, I'm the world leader in my category. And that's when the Bill Gates company came and says, can you tell us how you did it? And I said, no, no, absolutely not. You want it, you buy it. They said, okay, how much? I said, couple million. They said, fine. And that's how I sold my business to Bill Gates 18
And it
months
was
after.
it was still a photography business.
Yeah, it was a
How did
stock
you, yeah.
photography licensing business. Yes.
Okay, the photography licensing business. That's what I was trying to figure out as I was scouring my research for you. So it still was photography licensing. You got this 10-year loan, basically. They restructured it and you're able to build it up from debt just to where it was and then sell it to Bill Gates. That's amazing. And what a story.
Yeah, between
Ah.
bankruptcy and surviving, it literally was 3 months. That's how tight this was.
And why didn't you at any point think, okay, I'm going to go out and apply for a job? Why stick with
I'm
running a business?
unemployable, Kiri. I mean,
I mean, but wouldn't you? I mean, I don't know if I would think like this, but I would maybe think like, well, anything is better than nothing. Anything like even if it's like a front desk job somewhere to get me going, maybe that's better than being in debt. Like, didn't you ever think that or no?
no, because I am. This is where one of my key quotes has been coined. I will not drown in a puddle. And if you
Hmm.
have a plan B, your plan A doesn't work. So you have to be so committed to your plan that there is no alternative to it. And there was no alternative to it. It was this or burn an inferno, not by a match. I was not drowning in a puddle. I was drowning in the ocean if I was going to drown. At least it's worth it. There's no reason to declare bankruptcy for $25,000. 135, now we're talking.
Hmm. And so do you tell your clients this? Like, how do you weed out those that are committed and those that are not committed? Just kind of looping back to what we originally were talking about, but this quote that you say where you say you have to be so committed to your plan that there's no alternative. What do you do when you, in any of the stages of your business with the growth architect, if you have someone in there who just does not seem 100% committed?
This is kind of where the mindset part, where my personal development comes in. I'm not here to judge. It's not my point to judge. My point is to put this out in front of people with all the shortcuts and all the knowledge that I have, and I can certainly give people lots of shortcuts because I made plenty of mistakes and I spend a lot of money on all of this. But I want to, I want to put these options in front of people on whether or not you're ready to run with it. That's entirely up to you. I'm
Mm.
here to cheer you on, hold you accountable to however you want to be held accountable to. And I will certainly push you beyond the expectation that you have of yourself. And I work with a lot of intuition. I think one of my super skills, Kiri, is that I can see your highest potential so clearly and so fast. And I'm going to give you an example to make this real. So I was literally just on an ayahuasca retreat. And as I'm in this spiritual retreat, my intuition is like wide open and I'm like receiving information. It's like ridiculous. So I see this guy, 31 years old, tattooed from head to toe, knew nothing about him, didn't even know his name. And then, I have this image of this house with an infinity pool, and there's some cement type features in the house. So I'm like, can I ask you a question? What, are you by any chance in like construction or something like this? It says, yeah, I do all the cement installations. That's my business. And I said, you have the potential to do a lot of cement installation as design features in high-end homes. It's, oh my gosh, and it's like, I love this kind of stuff. And I do these things with, where I can make cement look like wood structures. And the company I work with, that's the department I oversee. And boom, I said, my download for you is this is going to be your business and you're going to be making millions of dollars.
Mm.
But that's sort of how this works because I work with the energy and I see the potential. And then we have to figure out what that vision really is because a lot of people don't have the vision. But when I kick it off, boom, suddenly they go, that's it. That's it. That's exactly what I was
Mm.
looking. I mean, it's been there the entire time, but I couldn't articulate it. But now I have it. Because if the vision and the purpose and the passion is not lit like a fire, it's pointless.
Mm.
You need to feel that what you're doing is fulfilling your life's purpose. Only then are you going to be fully committed. If it's going to be a to-do list of 10 things and optimizing your day and productivity, you're not going to be able to reach that potential because that's also an energetic push that you get where, what you came here to do.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yep. And I think that is true. Like that's the difference between someone who's really committed. And I talk about this in my course, in my coaching, like your why, the reason, what you're talking about. Like your why has to be so strong. If it is not strong, you're going to give up or you're going to slow down massively. Um, so let's talk a little bit about because I'm sure you have a lot of great advice for this time management techniques that you've used with your clients that you can share with fellow women entrepreneurs that you've seen really work in their businesses, or maybe even that you suggest coming from your own experience.
Yes, happy to. So the key really is that we have, and I wrote about this in my book, Happy Woman, Happy World, especially as women, there's a concept I developed called ecorhythm. And it means that there's a rhythm, a main rhythm that we are in, and then there's others that happen at the same time. Women have a tendency to look at our friends. We look at Rosie. Rosie got a smoking hot body, so we want that. Anna is a phenomenal cook. We want that. And Susie has the best relationship, great intimacy. They're all over each other. And Hannah is an amazing mom. So we go and we say, my body needs to look like this. I need to cook like her. My house needs to look like this. We pick the best attributes, the number one best attribute of all of our friends, and then we think we are the combination of all of them in one body, which is preposterous.
Mm.
So that's the formula on driving ourselves crazy. And women do this all the time. So what you want to understand is that there are different times in life where different things are important, hence the word egorithm. So when you first become a mother, you lose your complete identity. You're known as, Gina's mom from here on out for the next 18 years. You don't have an identity. You're lucky if somebody remembers your first name, but you're Gina's mom.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to give yourself permission to have that be your main focus because it's such a massive change. If you try to fire up your career at the very time, also rekindle your relationship, also start volunteering, also start to take care of your parents, you guaranteed to burn yourself out in no time because it is humanly not possible. So the first thing is you got to get very clear what's the main focus, what's the main egorithm that you're in right now, because it also changes. Because if somebody would tell you at the birth of your child that this is going to be probably a 12, 14-year-old that stands in the middle of the room and tells out loud, I bleep hate you, you probably would enjoy these first 3 years a lot more, but you don't know. So you go, oh my God, I'm losing my identity. I can't even go to the bathroom. I can't take a shower. I have no more privacy. Well, let me tell you, that's going to change. So that's what I wanted to start with, to say there's a reality of this, of a rhythm in life. And if you ease into it, you do much better. So now that runs the priority. If you have this main focus, let's say your career now is your main focus because let's say your kid just yelled at you the other day that they hate you, and you feel that, now that the end of this, or they don't need you as much anymore and it's now time for yourself, then what is that rhythm you're in? Maybe it's a me ego rhythm. So now you have permission to say, what are all the actions that support that main ego rhythm? Because there's always 100 decisions you can make. There's always, should I go do this? Should I go do this? But if you have a main focus, everything goes underneath of that. Does it support or hurt this particular piece?
Mm.
And if it doesn't support it, you say no. Not right now. Sounds good. Don't have time for that. Maybe later, whatever that is. And with that, then you have a much easier time to say, what is my priority for today that furthers that thing to that next level? Because we get distracted with all these other things that are life, that are happen, that we want to do, but that are humanly not possible. So if you know what's the main thing, then you can look at every task and say, is this task a priority under this umbrella or a distraction? And then it becomes easier to manage your time.
Mm. I've heard, I think, variations of this in some form from other guests. And the more I hear it, the more I realize how vitally important it is, because you realize that in order to grow your business and in order to have what you want, everything that you do needs to be questioned. And here we can get into hiring. If it is not something that you love to do, perhaps you should hire for it, because then if you don't love to do it, I mean, there's always a part of a business you don't love doing, right? But if you can afford to hire, then you should, because then your energy is going to be going to things that you love to do and that will move the needle forward. So, like, when we think about hiring, what do you recommend to your clients when they're thinking about doing it correctly, right? Because you can rush a hire and it might be a bad fit. But if you're going to have revamp someone's hiring process, you come in, you're like, okay, we got to hire a few different people, or let go of people, rehire, whatever. What do you suggest to have a smooth hiring process?
I'm going to answer this probably a little bit different than you may expect. So the hiring is really comes in the 5-star success blueprint. very, very far down the road. It's step number 4. And in the 5 Steps Success Blueprint, we say you first have to have clarity on the idea. Why you? What is it? Why would people buy from you? What's the solution you offer? 2, the offer. Only if you know what it is that you're doing and what problem you're solving can you create an offer. Then you build the systems, because then you know which systems you need to run the offer that solve the problems for your clients. Then you hire. So you hire only when you know what systems you need that help you sell to the client whose problem you're solving. People go at hiring the wrong way. They go at hiring and say, I know how to do 50 different things. I'm going to hire a bunch of people that know how to do 50 different things. So you are trying to do the hiring process that I call the mini-me cloning, which is completely forbidden in business. But most people fail at hiring because they're not clear what they're hiring for, because they have skipped all these steps. So it is better for you to hire a coach, a consultant, to help you to build the structure for the business and set up the systems so that you know who the people are that you need to hire to operate the systems.
Mm. And what are some examples of systems?
So, for example, when you now have the offer in place, right? So you know you have a low end, an entry level offer, maybe a guided course. Then you have your coaching program, and then you have your mastermind. So now you know you need to bring in people on 3 different levels, but they have to, probably come all in the same place. So now you build the system. How am I going to bring the people in? Where are these people? Am I running Facebook ads? Am I running Google ads? Am I doing direct outreach on LinkedIn? How do I bring the people in? That's the system. That's a lead generation system. So once you figured out which system you want to build, then you know which person you need to hire to operate that, because that could be on Salesforce, that could be on Monday, that could be on Asana, that could be in High Level, that could be in Keep, that could be in HubSpot. So you don't know who to hire unless you know how you set up this lead generation system, or maybe it's ClickFunnels. So how do you set this system up? Once you have that, you know exactly who you need to hire to operate that system. Or if you say, we are running ads, then you're going to need to bring in somebody who knows how to run ads, so that is set up that way, in a proper way. And then you know who you need to hire to, to operate that. Or then you see how much comes in as leads and what needs to be done with the leads, because they need to be vetted. You need to have phone calls, or maybe then you need to hire a salesperson to have these vetting phone calls in the beginning. But that's really the better way to go about it, is to have the clear strategy first, the systems flushed out to the extent that you say, okay, now I know which specialist I need to get in to help me grow my business fast by operating that particular thing that I know I'm going to need to bring the leads in, convert them, sell, and deliver.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. What do you think then is one of the most important action items you would suggest women take to grow their business from, let's say, 6 figures to 7, or even 6 figures to multi 6 figures?
You got to overcome your superhuman desire that you alone have the answer to everything. You have to build that signature growth system where you take all your knowledge and you systematize it, like a franchise idea, where everything that is in your head needs to now be organized into steps, so that we can slice and dice these steps into different jobs for other people. So if you have a particular method on how to do X, then that method needs to be outlined, like growth architecture. That's the overall umbrella. The 5-Step Success Blueprint is our signature growth system. And within that, we have 3 entry points where we help people to figure out, what's that next step is. It's the build, it's the growth, and it's the scale. So these are the three elements of how we help. And when you have that figured out, then it's very clear because then you can vet with your signature system where people are. You have powerful language, based upon the assessment that I just did. You have this part, but you missed two things. So we need to go in and fix that. And then once you've done that, congratulations, you're moving on to phase two. It allows you to pre-sell all your other phases. It shows people exactly where they are on the journey. It's a better client experience. And you can really help people to understand on what it's like to work with you, and you get more consistent results.
What do you think then when you're dealing with people who are in the, you say grow and scale, right? What is the biggest difference you found in mindset between those two? Because we talked a lot about mindset with the building, but with growth and scaling.
With growth and scaling is that with scaling you need to really reevaluate your vision. So I'm going to give you an example to to put this in perspective. One of my clients is in the clothing recycling business, and it's a family business that was, where a lot of family members are working in, and there's been a change in the structure of who is running what, and a death in the family. So now there was a necessity for people to step up and figure things out. So, they had growth, consistent growth in a certain percentage, which was not a quantum leap. And now they really want to scale it and they want to double the business. So doubling a business is a quantum leap. Growing a business is 10%, 20%, whatever sort of that percentage might be. In order to get to a quantum leap, you need to sit down and say, how do we take what we have and how do we look at each one of these pieces that we have on whether or not we want to keep it? What can be grown and what cannot be grown? What do we need to do to get the PR, the visibility in the market to become the number one supplier or provider in this? And what are the areas we haven't explored? So I've been sitting down with the owners, and we are now taking a look at everything: who works there, what the job descriptions are, what the individual divisions are making, where the growth potential is, who is responsible for which division, where we have missed opportunities. And now with that, now there's a plan, a priority plan, because if one division has the potential to grow faster than others, then that's going to become our number one priority. So that's what scaling is about. Scaling is at taking a look at what exists and flushing it out and saying, first you take it all apart like a puzzle and you look at the different pieces, and then you say, this is what I think this is what interests me most. This is where I think the greatest growth comes. That's going to come first. And then we reorganize that in a plan for the next, 18 to 36 months.
Mm. So let's talk a little bit about your business, either the growth architect or the photography business beforehand. What was one of the biggest mistakes you think you made while growing your own business?
It has been, and I think this is a lifelong journey for most of us, honestly, is that no matter where you are in life, and obviously I sold a business, I made millions, but you still questions on whether or not you have a right to be here. And I don't necessarily want to call it imposter syndrome because I've just done so much personal work on this. I think a lot of it has to do with our own trauma of what we've been told or how we've been raised, that we need to overcome to really step into what we come here to do. And if we drag these old scars around, it's very difficult to tell yourself consciously that you have a right to be here. You're very good at and I'm very good at what I do. But I wasn't at times feeling that. And I think that's what your clients are picking up on. It's really a vibration where they say, well, I like her. It sounds really good, but there's been something off. But when you then do the work on yourself and you say, not just am I saying I have a right to be here, but I truly believe that I have a right to be here. That's when things are changing. So I may have waited at times a little bit too long to address some of these issues, honestly, Curie, because it's so painful for me to go there. And, in my head, I don't want to be a victim and I don't want to be a survivor. These are like certainly not words that I would want in my vocabulary, but I am a victim and I am a survivor.
Mm.
I'm no longer a victim because I survived. But unless you really look into where that comes from and you resolve that, you can never stand as tall and as strong with a conviction because you're dragging the sand sack, this 200-pound sand sack with you everywhere you go
Mm.
that you're trying to get rid of, but you're afraid to look. It's heavy, it wears you out. So you have to figure out a way to get rid of what it is that holds you back and address that so that you can be free and you can
Mm.
really believe what it is that you say. So that's, I think, the most important thing is the mistakes that I have made is that I figured that a lot of this I could just overcome with just positive mindset without ever really addressing what it was. And now that I did the work and I addressed what it was, and it was everything that I feared, I feel for the first time I'm free. And I want to take that even more into my work and helping others to understand these concepts that we are here to for greatness, but we can only be great if we accept everything that happened without judgment and bring that in our work and help other people to overcome it as well.
How long did it take you, do you think, to overcome that? Because it's for each person who has their own struggles, it's going to be different. But how long did it take you?
Well, for me, I I did go to this ayahuasca retreat and that was a wrestle on the wrestling mat for a week. But I think I did in a week what I didn't do in 50 years. And you just have to be ready to say, if there is something that you can't put your finger on it, but you feel something is holding you back, you're right. Something is holding you back. And then stop pushing hard and working harder. Take a pause. Go figure out what's a modality that will help you to really look at what's there and release that so that you can do what you came here to do. Otherwise, it's just going to be an endless struggle.
Mm. I love that. It's so important. I think we
Mhm.
all carry around something that holds us a little bit back. I mean, maybe not everyone. I think it depends. Nah, no,
No,
no.
we no no
I'm
no no.
backtracking. I think
I was
everyone
just in a
does.
room of
Yeah.
83 people that believe me, every single person has a
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I started thinking because I just started thinking about every single podcast guest I've had, and I was like, is there any? And there's only actually one guest I can think of who was just completely seemed 100% confident, never had any issues, just going forward. For our audience, it's Esther Eastman. But maybe there was something. I mean, she came to Canada with very little money, so I'm sure she had to overcome quite a bit to get where she was herself. So, but she's the only guest I can think back who she was quite something in that interview. She just was like, go get her. I am always confident. I can do what it takes. Um, but yeah, I think everyone has something. I think for sure, for sure, even if they don't act like it. So did you ever have any hurdles specifically as a woman with your business?
All the
And
time.
can you think of anything on the top of your head and any advice you would have for other women who might be in either a male dominated space or face some kind of exclusion because they are a woman?
It always it will perpetuate, and that's because society is set up that way and our systems are set up that way. If it's often it's something really simple and extremely stupid, like the sentence, "Why are you always so emotional?"
Mm.
And and if I have a really good trick. I'm just going to tell your audience on how to handle that. And then I swear nobody will ever say this to you if you follow this exactly like I tell you how to do this. And it goes like this. So when somebody says, "Oh my God, Carrie, God, why do you always have to be so emotional about that? And all you were saying is, we need to really get on with this. I mean, there was really no
You
emotion in
raise
it,
your
but
voice like 2 decibels. Right.
right. And then somebody says to you, Kiri, oh God, why do you always have to be so emotional about this? And so what you want to say, you want to basically jump on them and strangle them and tell them what a freaking idiotic, stupid moron they are. But if you do, you already lost. So I want you to do this instead. And you do it exactly like this. You go, oh God, oh God, John. Oh, if you can press out a tear, even better. You say, oh God, that is the funniest thing. My God, I haven't heard that since the 80s. So what what I was saying, John, is that when we do this and you go right back, you just make them, you just like laugh like it's so ridiculous and so funny. It's a checkmate move. There is no coming back from this for anybody
I'll try it next
because
time.
there literally is no coming back. And if it's in a group, nobody will ever say this to you. Right?
Hmm.
So you just make a comment along the lines, oh God, good one. Jesus. Oh man, I got a good laugh out of that one. Oh gosh, Jesus. I haven't heard that one in a while. I didn't know people still said that. But here's what we're really talking about. And you just wipe it off the table and it will stop.
Hmm. Oh gosh. I can't remember the last time I've really heard that, but I will. I know I have at some point, and I will in the future. So I'm going to try it. Keeping that in my back pocket.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so if you could distill down your advice for women who want to grow their business in just a few sentences, what would you say?
I would say you're going to have to really take care of yourself and you have to be very honest with yourself that if you don't nurture your heart, which is the power that powers everything, your heart dies and then you're dead. So make sure that in all the work that you do, you find these moments. And if it's, a 2 minute meditation or, take your Fitbit and press the 2 minute breathing exercise and just help yourself throughout the day to really stay in a zone of good energy. Because if you lose that, then everything just becomes work. And have faith that you're here for greatness, that you're beautiful, that you're perfect the way you are, there's nothing wrong with you, and that you can actually do this and make the decision and then just go freaking do it.
Wonderful. So where can we find you? Please list out your website so we can put it in the show notes, how people can connect with you if you have any social handles, anything like that.
Yes, so I recommend you to go join our Facebook group, which is Turn Your Talent into a Business. You can find that under, I think it's facebook.com groups, Growth Architect. And if you want to figure out what your talent is worth, we just launched a quiz called whatsyourtalentworth.com. And you
Hmm.
literally get a number that calculates based upon your skill set, your expertise, how much money you can make, what your earning potential
Ooh,
is. Yeah, we literally just launched that. And if
very
you're
cool.
interested, yeah, and if you're interested in any of our programs or you heard something that you want to explore, reach out, go to uncoversession.com, schedule a 15-minute complimentary session. Make sure you mention this show and you get priority treatment. Talk to our business growth advisor about, what your plans are, and we'll be happy to help you to figure out where your business is stuck or what maybe a good next step is. And if you want to work with us, we'd be more than happy to have you. And if we are not the right ones, we'll be happy to help you anyway. We can.
I love it. I love it. I like the idea of that. How much is your talent worth? I kind of want to try that, even though I
No,
don't
no,
need
you
to.
should.
I do want to. I just want to
You
see.
should. It's free. It'll
Yeah.
give you the number within the next 10 minutes. Yes.
Oh, I like that idea. All right. So, what is one philosophy, mantra, or quote you try to run your business by?
Uh, there are a million ways to be successful. You only need to find one yours.
Mm, great. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this show. Truly, truly appreciate it. If you're in the audience and you really like this conversation as well, then please help our show and grow it by sharing it with a friend. Until next time, you can find me on LinkedIn, Kiri Mohan, or Instagram at the Kiri Mohan. Thank you again.